Hello, Slicey Dicers. This is Brian with another battle to the death for you. Been a while since I did one of these, but today we have the Benchmade 560BK-1 Freek, the Super Freek as we all lovingly call it, versus the new steel wheel Tasso Antlock F12-01. Both knives with very long names. I do want to specify which model of Tasso this is because they just announced a mini version, which we will talk about towards in the conclusions and stuff. Both fairly similarly priced knives, $169.99 for the steel wheel versus $190-$125 for the Benchmade. Pretty similarly priced, both Super Steel blades, M4 you have here, M390 on the steel wheel. Both, as you can see from the shot, very similar in size, very similar in purpose. They're both meant to be, EDC use knives, and both ones that we all waited on quite a little bit. The Super Freek, not as much. It wasn't a surprise, but they kind of leaked it was coming, and we were getting all excited about it. And the Antlock steel wheel took a long time to perfect it before they finally came out with it, which is a good thing. That's not a bad thing. But they went through a lot of prototypes before it came out. Both thumb studies, sort of, thumb stud deployment, but both with these, thummy sort of deployment methods. I guess that's what we're going to call them. Thummy locks. That's probably not a good thing to call them, but you know what I mean. Both their lock systems are drastically different, but both do deploy by little thumb studs here. So I thought it was a very natural comparison. To get it out of the way and avoid comments, why didn't you use the Hogue Ritter RSK Mark 1-G2 in this comparison? That is a good choice. Already comparing against the Freek, I believe it narrowly beat the Freek, but it's not a widely available knife still. They've been promising it was going to be in stock more and more all the time, and it just never is. It's always on pre-order. So I would rather just compare it against a knife you can actually get. Both of these you can just go out and buy, so it's a much more valid consumer advice comparison to compare two knives that you can actually get your hands on in fairly short order. Love the Ritter RSK Mark 1-G2, but it's kind of hard to get your hands on, and sometimes people get kind of upset with me when I compare stuff that's hard to get. So decided to choose two that you can actually just get your mitts on. All right, let's get into how this works. I do 7 categories as always. We have design and aesthetics, quality, blade, ergonomics, carry, deployment, and value. And then we're going to add them up all at the end and pick a winner. There were no ties in this one. Spoiler alert, I was surprised about that. Usually I have like 1 or 2 categories that tie. None of these tied. So it is a clear winner at the end. We're not going to have one of these things where I just say it's a tie at the end. It's a close one, but we didn't have a tie. All right, let's get into some specs before we get too much farther. I don't do size comparisons on these because you're looking at it's a walk-in size comparison. We'll start out with the Super Freek. You have an overall length of 8.46 inches, blade length of 3.6 inches. You have a blade thickness, pretty slim, 0.11 inches. You have a handle thickness of 0.62 inches and a weight of 4.3 ounces. Now, put that aside. Let's bring the Tasso back up here. You have a length of 8.1 inches, blade length of dead on 3.5 inches, blade thickness 0.14 inches, and a handle thickness of 0.6 inches and a weight of 4.15 ounces. I'll bring them both back in here. Let's get into the all of the scoreable categories. First up, design and aesthetics, by far the most subjective category. I really honestly went back and forth on this. I love the shape of the Tasso. I just like the shape of it so much better. I like the look and shape of the Freek as well, but that coated blade really bothers me. But the G10 on it is gorgeous. I love the red accents inside and stuff. I just think it looks amazing. But again, I like the satin blade on this better, but the orange backspacer, for one thing, it's just like a G10 backspacer. It's well done. It's nicely rounded and stuff, but it doesn't feel that premium. And I don't know. I think orange is kind of a polarizing color if you're only going to have one color choice. Both of these knives, by the way, available in only one color choice. These are the 2 there are, and that's it. I really wish they'd have gone with a more neutral color. I think red is a more neutral color. And again, I just like the look of this. I'm going to give of these scales on the Freek. I just like the look of those. So I'm going to give It's a more narrow one than you'd think, because I really don't like coated blades. If you like coated blades, then this is a slam dunk for the Super Freek. But if you don't like coated blades, like I don't, it's a narrow win for the Super Freek in that category. Quality. Both feel really well built. I've had almost zero issues with both of them. They both have centered up well. You know, they both lock up well. All that stuff you look for. The hardware quality on both of them is equal in that it's okay, but not outstanding. But I have to give the win to the Super Freek again because of one thing. If you can hear it. This rattles. That lock rattles, and that bothers me. I really thought after having it for a while and carrying it a bit, you know, enough pocket lint would get in there that it would stop rattling, but it rattles, and that's annoying. So just on that alone, I mean, I can't. As far as build quality goes, they're fairly similar, except for just that rattle, and it's not just this one. I've talked to other guys who've had them. You've seen it in other reviews. Other people have mentioned the rattle. It's just kind of a feature of that ant lock, and it rattles. So that's annoying. So got to give quality win to the Benchmade for that. On the blade, this one kind of surprised me. The Freek has a thinner blade. It's got M4 steel, which is amazing. It's going to hold an edge forever and a day. It's really great steel. Not that M390 is anything to slouch at, but I do really like M4. Thickness behind the edge of both these pretty similar, right around that 25 thousandths range. Much higher grind on this. The Super Freek, definitely a better slicer, absolutely for sure. But I really like this kind of clip pointy blade shape on the steel wheel. I really do. And it's got a bit of a more robust tip on it. Not dramatically so, but just a bit more. And again, thicker blade stock. No, it's not a huge difference. 0.14 is not egregious or anything like that. You know, 0.11. This is really thin. This is, you know, you call kind of thin. And just the ease of maintenance of M4, it's going to be easier to take care of. The M390 is. Neither of them are like the simplest things in the world to sharpen, but M4 takes a lot longer than M390, at least in my experience. I think this is easier to maintain. It's not coated, so you're not going to get scuffs all over it and all that stuff if that's something you care about. But the final thing that made me pick the steel wheel for the blade is that this is 3.6 inches. This is 3.5. A whole lot of places in the US have a 3.5 inch blade limit. This is just over for no apparent reason. So based on the legality and the coating and the ease of maintenance, I have to give a slight win in the blade category to the steel wheel. Ergonomics. Again, this is another one I went back and forth with. The Super Freek is great. I raved about its ergonomics. I really like it. It's very comfortable in the hand. Good grip. All that stuff you look for. It's got a bit of a texture on the G10, which is nice. Jimping's just the right amount, right where you'd want it. It's very, very good. But I'm still going to give the win to the steel. The wheel to the steel win. The win to the steel wheel, because it's equally, if not more, comfortable in the hand when you do a normal grip on it. But you can choke up, and it's always nice to have that option. It's always really nice to have that option. And they did it in a way with this forward finger choil that it doesn't really lose that much in cutting edge. Remember, this is a shorter blade by a tenth of an inch, and you're not losing a whole lot of cutting edge there. So I gotta say, a fairly easy win to the steel wheel, just because you can choke up on it, and yeah, it's equally, if not just as good comfort in hand, no matter how you grab it. Super comfortable knife. One of my favorite things about the Tasso is just the ergonomics are outstanding. Carry. This one was it should be a tie, but it isn't because of one thing. Because if you look at how they carry, I'm not going to bother bringing out the Yield Wranglers for this, but I have these stock pocket clip back under. I usually use a Benchmade deep carry clip on the Super Freek, but as you can see, as far as how they carry in the pocket, pretty even. That's all fine. Handle thickness is really close. Weight is close enough not to matter. And as far as getting your hand in the pocket, they're dead equal. Dead equal, fine. If you use them with the stock pocket clips, dead equal. If you are right-handed. And that's one of the things that I'm not left-handed, my son is, but these both have very ambidextrous locks. Very ambidextrous locks. They work great for right hand, left hand. It's one of the best things about locks like this. But for some reason, unbeknownst to me, Steel Will chose not to put a left-hand pocket clip on this knife, and they have to be penalized somehow for that. So this is where I'm penalizing them. I'm going to give the win to the Super Freek, just because it's right hand, left hand. And we have an ambidextrous lock. You should have ambidextrous pocket clip options. That's just the way it should be. And also, you can't get any aftermarket clips for this. It's got a very unique clip pattern, so there's that too. But it's mostly. Why didn't they put a left-hand pocket clip on it? I don't understand. It doesn't make any sense to me at all. I've never gotten it. If you could see me right now, I'm just slapping my face. I really don't get it. Deployment. I'm going to give the win, just say right away, to the Super Freek on this one. I'm going to give the win on that because it is just a little bit smoother. This has had a lot more pocket time. I've had it a lot longer than the Antlock on the Tasso, but it just doesn't quite have that. It's close to that. It's close to that Benchmade kind of drop lockiness for sure. It's really close, but it's just not quite there. And I will say, like, this is smoother. I do think it's better in deployment and all that stuff. I do, but if you just have an aversion to an Omega springs, this is an excellent option. How the Antlock works, it works kind of more like a back lock. If you look here, it's like almost like a split back lock. You can see it kind of just pops up there, lets the blade drop. I think it's probably a stronger lock. That's not really a huge concern for me. And knock on wood, I've been very lucky with Omega springs. So I'm going to give the win to the Super Freek, but I could totally understand why if you're just one of these people, and there are lots of them who just don't want anything to do with axis locks because of rumors of Omega springs, cracking like the polar caps, which I don't 100% buy into, but that's a whole other thing. Yeah, I could totally see why you'd go with the Antlock. It probably is a stronger lock, but this is much smoother, much more fun to play with. Maybe when this breaks in, maybe it'll get to be that point, but I don't think it's ever going to get to that point. I gave it a lot of time, and I just don't think it's ever going to get to be as fun and fidgety and drop shutty as the Axis lock is on the Super Freek. Now, that brings us to our final category, value. This is a tough one. The Benchmade is a bit more expensive. I think as far as price goes, as far as materials, they're pretty equal. M390, M4, I think price-wise, that's pretty equal. But I am going to give the win to the Steel Will, very narrowly. And why is that? Because, not just because it's cheaper, but because it's going to be available in a mini soon for exactly the same price. I think actually you can go on Steel Will's website right now and order one. I don't know if it's a pre-order or they're coming or whatever, but I know they're sending me one, so I'll have a review of that shortly. M390, again, like I said, I would rather have M390 for an EDC all the time carry knife than M4. That's just me. I think the quality is close. Again, it's that rattle. That's the only thing that holds it off. But it is a little less expensive. Yeah, I'm just going to give value to the Steel Will by the skin of its teeth. But I do think this is a bit better buy. But on an emotional level, you want USA made, all that stuff. If you want USA made, if that means a lot to you, Benchmade all day long. It means something to me, but not enough for me not to give the win ever so slightly to the Steel Will for value. So where does that leave us? That leaves us as a 4-3 win for the Super Freek. And I do have to say, though, good job, Steel Will, because if this didn't rattle and it had a right-hand, left-hand clip it probably would have won. It probably would have won. And I love the Super Freak. And if they just would have done those two things different, it would have won. But alas, they did not. So, got to give the win to the Super Freak. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this. I've been Brian. Have a good one.